I'll be your host today. My name is Chi. I'm the General Manager here at Recovery Partners, and essentially looking after everything safety-wise from a service delivery. I guess one thing that to note as well, you've probably, if you have worked with Recovery Partners before or have seen our brand, we have changed a little bit from a branding perspective. Recovery Partners is still here and is essentially blue. We've recently done some rebranding to realign some of our services, which is now going to be called Safety Partners. So we've got Recovery Partners and we've got Safety Partners. Same business, just some different branding to reflect the types of service that we do, make it a little bit more aligned there. So that's my little spiel here. So again, just want to thank everyone for coming. This is our first forum for this sector, and that is the aged, the care, and the aged community and the disability care sector. Why we have combined the three it's a no-brainer. I think it's very clear that we share many challenges and risks, so it makes sense that we basically, put everything together there and talk it through. So this is something that's been probably about 10 or 11 years in the making. I previously worked for an aged care provider. Absolutely loved collaborating and really picking other people's brains about what works for them and what doesn't. Have tried a number of times to get something like this off the ground, and 10 years later we're finally here. So the reason why we've put this on is to essentially bring like-minded people within the industry to talk about safety, share insights, share new things that are popping up within the industry, with the aim to work together and get better together ultimately. We have a number of guests that are joining us today. I'm super excited to have the regulator SafeWork New South Wales. I'm also mindful that some of our audience are national, which is totally fine. For this sector today, we will have New South Wales talk it through, as well as some other guests within the industry that can share some insights and different perspectives there. So I might introduce to you Michelle and Amy from SafeWork New South Wales, who is going to provide us with a bit of an update on the landscape of our industry, and then we'll get stuck into the remaining guests. So over to you, Michelle and Amy.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Bournes. I am a Senior Stakeholder Engagement Officer at SafeWork New South Wales. Have been with the company for just over 18 years. And my colleague joining me is Michelle, who is one of our inspectors, who is basically, I think, the same as myself, been around the traps a very long time. So we're really pleased to be invited along today to present a bit of just an update on WHS in New South Wales in the sector. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so just give me 2 seconds while I get the technology to work.
I'll just quickly say hello, everybody.
Lovely. We've got a few prepared slides, but we do want this to be pretty comfortable for everyone. So if you would like to ask questions, because I'm presenting as I speak, maybe either wait to the end or pop your hand up, and Michelle can keep an eye on it for me as well. So I'll begin. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands in which we're meeting from around Australia today, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us. I actually am coming from Biripi land, which is the mid-north coast of New South Wales. So I pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of New South Wales and beyond. I myself am a Kiwi and really just stoked with getting to live and work in New South Wales in the beautiful country. So I acknowledge that. A bit of an agenda today. We're going to go through the state of the sector just with a bit of data, some stats for you. We're going to talk through our commitment to the healthcare and social assistance sector, which is SafeWork's action plan, which is actually well underway and it's due for completion at the end of this year. before we develop our next one. We've got some information for you on work health and safety duties with guidance material that we've developed that's really relevant to you all, given the audience. We've got residential aged care, in-home care and disability care resources. We're going to talk through psychosocial hazards and point you in the right direction of where you can find more information. We're going to touch on respect at work, which is all at this stage a focus on preventing sexual harassment in the workplace, and then we'll have that time for questions at the end. So first up, state of the sector. Right, so what we can see here is basically a summary of where we sit in the landscape. I'm going to have to put a disclaimer that we have only been able to verify data at this stage to 2023. We're working on getting more accurate and up-to-date data, but at this stage we are working off, just over that year old. But we can see that healthcare and social assistance sits right up there in terms of the biggest employer. We know it's the largest and fastest growing injury. And also we have the largest employer of women in Australia. Looking at some claim numbers here, the overall trend for the disability sector is increasing. We're doing a lot of work on the prevention of injuries before they occur at organisational level, but as always, it takes some time for those preventions to come through the data stats. So for now, we are still seeing that trend line rising there. Again, 2023, so I just had that disclaimer, but we had over $25 million in claims, and that's just for the sector. So that was, a significant amount of time, 38,000 days lost, where basically we know that's where workers are unable to provide those vital care and services that the public need, which impacts on the quality of care as well. So we know that by prioritising worker safety, we're actually then providing safer care to the people who need it in New South Wales. So snapshot of our claims, there are 6 times more psychological claims coming through for the sector than physical claims. The average length of time off work for a psychological claim versus a physical claim, you can see the numbers there are dramatically different. So the psychological claims are taking a significantly longer time for that worker to return to work in any capacity. And psychosocial hazards have been a real focus for us as the regulator of recent years and will be going forward. All right, so now we've got our commitment to the healthcare and social assistance sector. So as I said, we're in the final year of it, of this current one. It's meant to conclude in December of 25. We actually developed this plan back in 2023 through some really in-depth
I think we've lost Amy there.
Right, sorry about that. Hopefully I'm back. I do have a bit of cyclone impacting my internet at the moment up here on the coast. As I was saying, this plan was developed through collaboration with stakeholders. We'll be doing the same approach to develop our next one once this one concludes. But this one is available to see on our website. So you can go on to safeworknewsouthwales.gov.au. If you search healthcare, it'll come up with our main pages, and we've actually got specific dedicated tiles for each of the subsectors within healthcare, and you've got disability and aged care as 2 of those tiles. So we're just going to quickly share some of the work that we've been doing. We've got duties under the WHS law. So we'll get onto the resources. So we've got basically, just to bring to everyone's attention here, so the WHS Act, it defines health as both physical and psychological, and employers, or PCBUs as we refer to them, has that primary duty of care to eliminate, or if not reasonably practical, to minimise the risk to workers. So it's really important that we people achieve it. So we try as best as we can always to educate and to raise awareness around those duties and obligations through the release of our resources on our website. So we're going to briefly touch on due diligence here, because I think many people in attendance may be what we classify as officers under WHS law. And due diligence basically just means that as the officer in charge of the business, you must always continually and comprehensively make sure that your business is keeping workers, volunteers and visitors safe while they're at work. So we call that due diligence, and that's a really important duty that we want to highlight. So putting those duties into context, Safe Work New South Wales have found that when we've been developing our guidance, that not a lot of the individuals within the sector were actually aware of what the laws were, what was required of them. You know, there was some confusion around when you're working in someone's home, is that home a workplace? Which, yes, it is. And so what we've really been focusing on in this sector is raising that awareness, like I said, of the WHS duties, and when completing work in other, I guess, you know, environments as opposed to a traditional workplace, that there are still duties and obligations around that setting, which is why we've developed the guidance that we're going to go through. We've tried to provide collaborative resources, so it's not all about just us. I think as the regulator telling you what we think you need, we've worked really closely with industry action groups and stakeholders to really make our guidance really practical, and tested it with users to make sure it was hitting the right mark. And so all of these resources I'm about to go through are on that same disability or aged care tile I mentioned just a moment ago. And this is what that landing page looks like. So when you search healthcare on our website for Safe Work, you'll come to this landing page, and you can click on any of the tiles there to drill in further for that specific information. So this is one of the key parts of advice that or guidance we've developed most recently. WHS guidance material, which basically has allowed us to form that solid foundation and improve knowledge and capability of the sector. We've got guidance here around the gig economy, so for platform providers and participants or clients, around what the duties and obligations are for each of those roles. And then we've developed those in consultation with our industry action groups, workers, stakeholders, unions, and peak bodies as well. So we've tried to keep these as relevant as possible, and they are living documents. So we change and update them as often as possible, as often as required, as new information you know, comes to light or emerging issues are identified that we need to address in this guidance. So we're always open to having feedback, or if there's a gap identified, letting us know. We have a dedicated contact email address, which is health@safework.nsw.gov.au, and we all, me and my little team, Michelle and I, and another colleague, Lauren, monitor that. So that comes straight to us if you use that email address. We've also developed some advice and resources for working in people's homes. When we have looked at the sector, we've found that there's been some confusion, like I said, around when you're conducting work in a home, you know, is that home the workplace? Yes, it is. So to help in that situation, we've actually created some resources. There's a home safety checklist and a home risk assessment that you can use when you're in the home, which is going to be here, the next slide, basically to support you in the home environment. And these guides went through really extensive consultation as well. The feedback we've also received already has been that they are very practical and easy to use and relevant to that sector for home care. They've got really simple instructions in them. It really steps you through the process. You know, again, they've been updated as we go and we find tweaks to make them better, but these are the most current versions available on our website for you. And with the home safety checklist, for example, you can do that with the participant or nominees or the person who has the management or control of the home. So that way you're proactively assessing for risk, and the risk assessment is aimed for workers or providers to be completed prior to commencing the work. So we're looking at both elements there of that environment as well. We've got some other cool resources on our website. This is just one of them. It's when you go on there, it's an interactive hazard identification diagram. You hover over like the different parts of the home environment to identify common hazards that you might find in the home. this is also, it's meant to be a simple way, I suppose, of identifying hazards in the home. And it's just to demonstrate, you know, what risks and what you might be able to do to control those. Yes, common risks such as uneven floor surfaces, the room layout, lighting and pets. But just one of the many resources we have to show as an example. And then we've got a whole bunch of other tools that I won't go through them all because there are so many, but here's a list here. We've got webinars, we've got printable resources, we've got videos that you can have a look at for case studies as well. All right, before I go on, I see a hand up. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Sally Ann. I'm from Sylvan Vale. With the previous slide with the, you know, the risk and the home, is there any way that when you, because I've been using that for quite some time since it's been up on the website in our training for safety and what WHS is with us, but what we're finding is that it's not big enough, as in the picture's not big enough. So when we've got people sitting towards the back in our training environment, they really can't see it. Is there any way that we can enlarge it? Because even if you click on it, you just can't make it any bigger than what the screen is.
Hey, that's really great feedback. That's definitely something that we can go talk to our web team about, even potentially making it a dedicated, like, separate page that links to it, you know, that would then make the image larger and more accessible.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, leave that with us. I can see Michelle noting it down. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no, great feedback. Thank you. We're always open to hearing that kind of stuff, especially when it's real life and you've found something we can help with. So thank you.
Oh, I use a lot of safe work stuff, so thank you.
I'm really glad to hear it. Thank you. So yeah, these are the other tools and resources that you've got available. I encourage everyone to please go onto the SafeWork website. Just search health or healthcare in the search bar, and it will take you to that landing page I first showed you, and you can drill through for all of these resources. The page is actually, to be honest, getting a wee bit busy because we keep adding so many more, and that's something that we'd love to do is actually, you know, bit of a revamp of the web page. But at least for now, it's all there, if not as pretty as we'd like it. But you know, it's not a bad problem to have when you have lots of resources. So please do check that out. And if there is any other feedback, such as that one, again, that inbox is health@safework.nsw.gov.au, and you can let us know. Next, we're going to go on to psych hazards. So there's been a lot of work done around psychosocial hazards in the last 2 years. We have released the Code of Practice, which contains guidance and case studies to help you manage psych hazards in your workplace. There's a QR code on screen if you wanted to get straight to the actual code itself. However, it is also on that website. We've also created some more resources around, again, psych hazards, but really talking about consultation. So the ability to consult with your workers on psych hazards is really important. It's part of your duties. And then we have great in that resource consultation, communication starters, like little tips around how you might get that started with your workers, you know, to help you in the process. We also have a designing work to manage psych risk guide. Work design, as we know, is one of the key control measures that you can use for psych risks. In organizational level interventions have far more impact and are there's a lot more evidence to show that they will work rather than a worker-focused solution. So doing those changes at the organizational level are in your best interests, and so that guide can help with work design. It's really practical information in there as well. We've got case studies and we've got tables and checklists, and yeah, I'd encourage everyone to please have a look at those. Next up, we've got Respect at Work. So as I mentioned, the focus of Respect at Work at the current moment is the prevention of sexual harassment. We have a Respect at Work task force specifically created within my directorate to develop these resources and raise awareness of this within New South Wales currently. There's a number of resources available on their website, such as a regulation map for New South Wales businesses. So there's a few competing regulators with different, you know, sort of actions or requirements. And so that maps them all out for businesses to know, you know, who does what and who do you contact for what and what does each one, how do they intersect and what do they all mean? So that's there. There's reporting options for workers. And there's posters available. fact sheets on workplace sexual harassment. So there's a bunch of resources that can be used by businesses to share with their workers and also help them implement those important management policies to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. And there's a dedicated team, as I said, in control of that. So if you needed any more information, I am very happy. If someone wants to reach out to me, I can pop you in the right direction and make that connection for you. But yeah, lots of resources on that sexual respect at work website. And then we've got basically, I guess, it's a bit of a wrap up, because I know I have to keep this very quick for my time frame, but the website again on the left is where our healthcare tiles sit. It's very small, probably on your screens, but you can see the 4 tiles, and towards the bottom of the screenshot there is a yellow sort of coloured line. That's a link to our commitment, which lists actually right. Sorry, hopefully that was a quick one. Cyclone Alfie at work. I'm sorry. We've got a mental health at work website as well, which has a workplace wellbeing assessment tool and some mental health resources for your workplace. Tools, resources, helping employers understand their legal obligations, rights around psychological health and safety. It has practical advice, resources to help business owners create mentally healthy workplaces. So there's some really great resources also available to you there. And then I finally come, I think, just with a few minutes to spare for any questions that anyone might have about what I've presented today, but also just to reiterate the email address, health@safework. So
Thank you so much, Amy and Michelle. So yeah, we'll take it to the audience there. I believe we got one. No, we had one raised. No more. Well, look, we've got the email address there, so I think. Oh, Mary. Mary.
So hi, sorry. I'm the regulator in represent the regulator in Queensland. And that was great. Thanks, guys, for your presentation. I was just wondering if we can get a hold of that that presentation via you, Chi, or can we approach Amy and Michelle directly, or what's the go there?
Yeah, look, I would pass you on to Amy and Michelle. But yeah.
Okay.
If you'd like to send an email to the health@safework inbox, we'll be able to send through the approved version, like the approved copy of the slides.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Thanks, guys. That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. And
we'll be stealing some of that. Don't you worry.
No, and look, this is the whole reason why we're doing this today is, you know, some organisations that I work with in different industries, they don't like sharing information. They're a bit protective of it. Today is about collaborating and sharing insights. Yeah, so we all get better together is the easiest way to put it. So this is exactly why we've put this forum together, is to share, collaborate, and get better together. That's really
Fantastic.
it. So yeah, thank you so much for asking, and thank you again to Amy and Michelle. We'll just go to Sally Ann just before we move on to our next guest speaker. So Sally Ann, did you have a question for us?
Hi, we're just there's 2 of us in the room, so my name's Michelle as well. I'm just wanting to confirm where Respect at Work actually falls into, because each time I've raised it, it's that it falls into the HR, who then don't really know how to navigate the psychological safety part of it and how it sort of has that on-flow. And I would just like confirmation of like who is meant to be looking after Respect at Work, who should be taking ownership of it, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Cool. Amy, Michelle, did you want to jump in on that one?
I guess it's similar to a psychosocial hazard. So I'm not 100% sure of the context. I guess you mean within a business. So it's similar to a psychosocial hazard. So within the legislation, you know, in the last couple of years, you know, we've kind of got the code of practice. So that was a new piece of, you know, or a new piece of work and, guidance material code of practice. And then after that, we've actually got now in the legislation specific measures that you need to take for psychosocial hazard.
Mhm.
And respect at work, we've kind of been doing work, I guess, in the last couple of teams. Amy mentioned the Respect at Work task force. And so that's, business that we're doing. And as I said, it's very similar to a psychosocial hazard. The risks there, you're looking at sexual harassment in the workplace. So if you're a business, we're looking at what systems do you have in the workplace to prevent that. What is it, similar to psychosocial hazards. So it would be, how you manage psychosocial risks would be similar to how you manage, sexual harassment in the workplace. There's a really good, as Amy mentioned, Respect at Work. So that's the website. And that's got, quite a few tools, resources, guidance material on there as well, available to, businesses.
So is it from an auditing perspective, would they expect to see that being dealt with by the WHS department or the HR?
I guess that I can't really, I suppose, answer that question. I guess that's how, I guess it's how the business runs. But I guess from our perspective, if we went into a workplace, I guess we would be asking the question, what systems do you have in place to manage this risk? So how your business works.
It's still a work health safety risk. It can't just be said, oh, that's an HR problem. It's not only an HR problem. It is still a WHS risk.
Yeah.
So
and
how the business individually manages it would be, something that the business would have in place. But like Michelle said, you'd be asked the question, right, what systems do you have in place to manage the risk of this hazard as any other hazard?
Just to wrap up, I'm sorry guys, I'm really mindful of time, and this is really good. This is really good questions, and we're getting some good collaboration here. Just from my perspective as a consultant, I do get this question asked a lot. At the end of the day, I think the regulator isn't going to care, or probably not the word care, but they're not going to worry as to which department is managing it, as long as it's being managed correctly. Now, from my perspective as a consultant, I would always encourage safety in HR to really collaborate and work out, because there is a crossover, and it always has been, with the psychosocial or psychological type stuff. So collaborate. At the end of the day, the regulator is going to want to see it done. How it gets done, that's up to each organisation and how they're structured. I'm really mindful of time, guys. I'm sorry, Claudia. If you do have a question and we have some time, then we might come back to you. If not, please feel free to send your question through. All right. So thank you very much again to Amy and Michelle. Obviously, very broad coverage in terms of useful information tools that we can all access via the website. Even our neighbouring Queenslanding regulators are looking at gaining some of that, which is great, because again, we're all about collaborating and getting better together. So that's really good. Now from here, we're going to jump into our next 4 guest speakers. Now, the next 4 guest speakers are from their own organisations, and the aim for the next 4 speakers is really to talk about and share insights about how they do things within their organisation. Again, there's no one way that's going to work for everybody, but today is about sharing insights about how things get done there. So my next guest is Lydia. Lydia is from a firm called HireUp. They are a national organisation. They work under the disability and NDIS sector. HireUp are a unique organisation. I say that because it's a fairly non-traditional model on how they operate. But for me to get into it, I think it's best to introduce Lydia. Hello, Lydia. Thank you very much for coming on board. Can you firstly start off with, tell us a little bit of background about HireUp and what I mean by the sort of non-traditional business model that's been brought into the country?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Very happy to be here. I'm very excited as well to see Michelle, as I've seen her on the website in the videos. So we use those videos quite a lot. So definitely would recommend everyone checking those out. So for HireUp, we were created by a brother and sister who grew up with another brother who had a disability, and they'd gone through the traditional model where their brother would receive support from a different person each day. He wouldn't have any choice over the workers coming into his home. So HireUp was created to give clients choice and control around which workers they connect with, when, and the kind of supports that they receive. So we're a little bit unusual in that we're an online web-based system. So clients will create a profile and a job ad and then search for support workers online, and they'll have complete choice around which support workers they want to book. And I suppose it's an important thing for HireUp is that early on, our founders decided that we wanted to have an employment model where all of our support workers are on casual contracts. So we have all the responsibilities of a normal workplace, and that was quite an important decision for us.
Awesome, thanks, Lydia. Now, I guess the choice and flexibility that you're creating in the industry is there's lots of positives to that. From a risk perspective, what does that mean, and what is the sort of additional challenges that sort of model can bring in?
Yeah, so unlike a traditional workplace, the shifts that take place on HireUp can be extremely varied. Like, it might be taking place in a client's home, it could be out in the community. Clients might have an interest in high risk support, for example, and the workers going along with their clients to that. So there's a lot of diverse risk assessment required by support workers around the activities that clients wish to complete. So we really strongly support client dignity of risk, and we educate our support workers on this Stop, Think, Plan risk assessment. So it's talking to the client about their wishes, talking about potential hazards that they might encounter when doing that activity, and suggesting different ideas about ways to mitigate that risk. And I think for HireUp as well, we have a head office supporting all of the shifts taking place out in the community. So support workers can always contact HireUp and talk to us if they have any concerns, or if any of the activities that they're being requested to help with pose risks that they're not sure how to get around.
No worries. Now, technology. What sort of technology do you rely on to assist, I guess, the complexities around, I guess, this newer model?
So one of the most exciting things that we've built at HireUp is this proactive detection team. So we have a team that predominantly go looking for risks before they eventuate. So we can have a look through messaging, through profiles, to see any keywords that might indicate risk, where we need to contact the client and get a bit more information for their support plan or follow up. For example, if people are using risk terms in their job ad, that will flag with us to contact their client and get some more information for their support plan. Or if the support's require additional training, that will flag in our system, and then we will contact the client and organize for training with their behavior support practitioner, for example.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And with the new psychosocial regs coming in late last year, all of us have been, hitting the ground running with getting things in place. Some of us had things already that we just needed to tidy up. Some needed to really start from the ground up. Where has the journey within HireUp, how has that gone over the last 12 months with, I guess, solidifying the psychosocial risk management processes there?
We really take on a continuous improvement mindset. So we're trying to learn from every incident that we get. With the keyword searches as well, as we see new hazards emerging, we update our keyword list. So we'll start looking for indications earlier. For example, with fatigue, that can be a risk at work. And with support workers and clients, they're picking their own hours and time. So we've started proactively contacting people if they're booking themselves in for excessive hours to talk about the potential risks of that and offer different solutions. I think with the disability sector as well, workers are working very closely with clients, and they can be exposed to different things within that client's household. We might have clients experiencing domestic violence, which can be quite traumatic for the support workers as well. So I think there's a lot of responsibility for providers to understand what the hazards are, contact all involved, and give support resources and help wherever possible. And I think if you're waiting for people to reach out for help, it's too late. It's really important to give the information early through training, so that people know that the business is here and that we can help.
Yeah, oh, that's great. All right, look, thanks so much, Lydia. Is there anything else that you wanted to sort of mention there? It's obviously I really appreciate the fact that you've been able to share those insights. Again, I find HireUp very interesting because, I have family members that are within the NDIS sector that require support. So, there's been plenty of discussions points around, what's good, what's bad about the sector, and what would you like more. So I think that that word choice has really opened up from a participant's perspective, their ability to get the care they need. But again, the challenges that come with that, we obviously need to ensure that we address and manage risk as best as we can. So, and I think it's fair to, we could all probably agree with you that Higher Up have done an amazing job with moving through that. There wasn't one day that you had something and the next day everything was sweet. You mentioned around the continuous improvement. So yeah, super excited to have you on board from the Higher Up team, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how things go and evolve with the business. So thank you very much, Lydia. So our next guest is Julie Strinich. She's the Injury and Wellbeing Manager at IRT Group. IRT are another aged care provider that commenced here in the Illawarra also. They've grown to really reflect our national footprint now. So again, seeing this organisation for the last 20 years grow and evolve with the needs within the industry has been phenomenal. Julie is predominantly, she works within the risk and safety team, but her specialty is looking after return to work and injury management. So I think most or even some of us on this call that look after safety within an organisation would have some sort of correlation with the return to work and injury management side of organisations. So I just thought it would be a really, really good idea to have someone like Julie come in and share some insights on that. So Julie, I might get you to just start off with, if there's something that I've missed around IRT about just your general overview. Is there anything else that you wanted to sort of add about, to give our audience today a bit more information about what IRT do, and yeah, go from
Sure.
there.
Thanks, Chi. Look, thank you. Look, I'll go back a step. So I've been with IRT for about 6 years, and from my learnings, I've walked into an organisation that, is not just your standard aged care provider. Certainly IRT provides, I'm sure like our colleagues at Warragul, a range of services across, retirement villages, aged care, and obviously home care. So a large portion of our business is providing aged care and home care services. And we have something like over 2,500 staff across the business, and that includes obviously our corporate office, our facilities management teams, call centres, etc. So a lot of people who support the business. So that's us in a nutshell. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So your background was you come from a rehab provider. You've come into an organisation. Obviously, was it 6 years that you mentioned, Julie?
So I've been with IRT for 6 years.
Yeah.
And yes, prior to that, yeah, different industries and different types of work across the different sectors. So yeah.
No worries. And look, over your 6 years, let's talk injury trends, because yes, that's probably a bit of a safety geek term, but it also is something that's relative to your baby, as we call it. So have you noticed any particular change in trends over the last 6 years since you've been there, or has it sort of stayed stagnant in terms of the types of injuries that you're getting? Like, can you share some insights on that?
Absolutely. So look, I think in terms of the trends, I can say, look, it's been certainly ever changing. So I know when I walked into IRT, certainly from what I saw in terms of our data and our risk, and incident management data, there was a lot more physical type injuries, and that unfortunately still remains quite high for us. And I think it's because of just the nature of work. At the same token, obviously we had that period, just like every organisation, the COVID experience, which really had a profound impact. Of course, for a number of industries, and obviously aged care was certainly up there at the top. But interesting enough, that certainly, that wasn't. Well, I guess once we sort of passed that COVID period, we came back to look at our data again, and slowly we'd start to see the psychological injuries come through. Wouldn't say the data is significant, but enough to say, look, what's going on there? And I think that sort of that psychosocial piece, we find that, or we have found that what comes into play is, it's interesting to see some examples around, say, if it's performance management and it's a HR matter, even though there are grievance processes internally, quite robust grievance processes, I think sometimes for that financial worry or that worry about the future and the implications on job security, we have found that a lot of employees go down the claim pathway as another avenue of support. So we've certainly seen changes there. But I guess, this industry, I think, is, it's always going to be challenging because of, again, the work that our people do, which can be quite physically demanding.
Okay.
So that's, been quite stable.
Yeah. And, you know, with these new changes or any changes or even changes with those trends, what are some of the things that you've put in place, whether they be initiatives or new processes that have, you know, really given you good outcomes? Like, has there been one or two that you can sort of talk on, just about, what have you done to really try and enhance the outcomes of those kinds of...
Yeah, sure. Look, we've certainly restructured the team, and I think we've taken a very much a proactive stance in terms of early intervention. So the team structure is that early discussion with the injured employee in terms of triaging their particular incident, and that immediacy around investigating that incident in collaboration with our safety team. So I think what we've done there too is we also introduced telehealth services that are available to our staff at no cost. So that's taken away, I guess, that gap and that that period of time off work by the time an employee has gone to see their own doctor and come back to work, and we've lost control of that conversation, where we've certainly seen a big difference there in that collaborative approach of that early response, not just from the employee but also from a doctor, and then we can then start that return to work conversation quite quickly. So that's made a big difference, in the way we manage and support our people. We work quite heavily in the wellbeing space. So again, if we have got service offerings, which we do have in place, where it might be accessing 4 free sessions of seeing an exercise physiologist if it's a physical injury. So if we're looking at potentially prevention of a long-term or a prolonged or serious injury, we are offering that to our employees, for physical type injuries. But also there is quite a lot of emotional support through our EAP providers. So again, our staff and employees can access that support. Again, there's an extension of so many other support services through the EAP process. It's not just counselling. There's free financial counselling. There's access to health advice and support. So, we do a lot of education and promotion around that with our people and also our managers, so that, our people feel well supported, and they've got avenues for support rather than actually not knowing where to go and, stepping away from work and becoming disconnected from IT. So we've seen a big change. Yeah. No,
that's great. And I think it's a industry term that we use. It's called the golden hour. So, even an hour can be too late sometimes, So when you talk early intervention, it is critical, because sometimes the horse is bolted if it's outside of that hour. So if we're not getting on the forefront in responding to even the smallest type of incident, or how minor the injury or illness may be as a result, and we're just letting it sort of go and take its own path, sometimes that can be way too late. The injury's or illness has gotten worse to the point where they then require prolonged time of work. So super important. Love the ideas around other interventions, such as the access to allied health. Call me a typical bloke, but I like to use the football analogy of, someone's got a bit of a niggle on the field. Well, let's not wait until that hamstring snaps. Let's get off the field. Correct. Let's go to that physio or the strapper and get that managed correctly, so we can move forward in the right way and still be on that field in a way to continue the service, but also continue to do it in a manner that's going to really make myself reducing the risk of it getting further worse. That's great. One last thing I wanted to mention, the loss prevention recovery model, also known as LPR, Jules. It's something that lots of organizations are exploring more so over the last 12 months. Typically, it was more of a larger employees, like 500 plus employees that were looking at that. I'm now seeing some of those medium-sized organizations, even smaller, starting to consider and explore that model. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey that IRT went through with that model, in terms of maybe like some of the challenges that you faced with getting that up and running, and then maybe just share maybe a process that has been a bit of a positive, or just give us a positive outcome around what has changing to the LPR model from the traditional model. How has that benefited the organisation?
Sure. Look, certainly, Chair, prior to my time, I believe that IRT was already, sitting on the, sitting with the LPR model. So I can't really comment on, where we sort of landed with that. But I can certainly say, look, there's pros and cons, I guess, with that particular model. I guess what sort of made it easy for us in terms of the financial side of things is obviously that early intervention program, making sure that there are suitable duties immediately available to our people, which, the biggest driver is obviously reducing that time loss and the costs that come with the wage loss, obviously cost for treatment, etc. So there are those long-term cost savings if we get it right from the beginning. If we miss the opportunity of supporting our injured employee from the beginning and we lose them, in time, then yes, that has a profound financial impact on us. And obviously, as we know, it's an evolving and unfortunately it's a 4-year. I don't know what the right terminology for is, but, obviously we are certainly paying for it. So I think if we can, work smarter and act smarter from the beginning, then we do see those long-term financial gains. But, what the future looks like moving forward, I'm not quite sure. But certainly at the moment, it is quite fluctuating for us. So it again depends on, the number of incidents that come through, the type of injuries, the cost of those claims. So I think strategically, we're always looking at our data to see what we can do differently and better, so that we're not seeing, each financial year, the cost of our premium creep up.
Yeah, awesome. And I think just from my own understanding, we're again working with many different clients under the model. It does require a little bit more resourcing to ensure essentially it's almost like a self-insured type model. You've got to really ramp up your resources to do things like initiatives, again, whether it's, the golden hour, early intervention programs, those sorts of things. So I think even if you're under that model or not, what you guys have really put in place is certainly positive. You've shared that, that the end result in getting people back into the workplace with meaningful duties to ensure that our deliverables to our participants or our residents is still on point there. So thanks so much, Jules. That was really good. Again, really good to have a little bit of a mix in terms of, risk versus injury management, things like that. But certainly something that can help us out with getting better together. So appreciate that. All right, we might head back to Tammy. Just let's check in with Tammy to see if that microphone's back.
Hopefully everyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yep, yes, certainly can. Hey, Tammy.
The joys of technology. Now, we've actually just moved head office and I've just moved in and got a brand new laptop. So where I thought everything was working fine, it wasn't so. So I just had to change a couple of settings. Yeah.
How good is it? All right, I'm going to need to limit our conversation to 5 minutes, which is really hard for me because you know how much of a chatterbox I am. But look, let's get straight into it. I know Warragul have done a lot of recent work around emergency management and business continuity planning. This is something that is, again, super critical. There are lessons learnt from previous incidents around the nation around the lessons learned and how we can get better with being prepared, as well as the environmental side of things. We had our safe work crew based over in the mid North Coast, and we're in the middle of a cyclone at the moment. So the environment's constantly changing, which means that we need to ensure our processes and things that are in place are fully robust and bulletproof as possible. Tell us about your journey. Take us through what Warragul have recently done around making sure you guys are bulletproof.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. So again, exactly. With Cyclone Alpha predicted to impact near Brisbane tomorrow, we are reminded just how natural disasters are occurring more frequently. So based on this, Warragul took a closer look at our emergency management processes to ensure that we're fully prepared if something like this was to happen, even though we started this process probably about 4 or 5 months ago. We identified key areas of improvements to be made, and I think our biggest step was we implemented a critical incident team. So that's made up of most of executive and senior leaders, and they are pulled up in a crisis. So we'll step up the critical incident team if something was to occur, and then the responsibilities will come down in from there, and then help and assist all of our services and stuff like that. To ensure that we were fully prepared for a whole range of events. We partnered with Ken Moroney. He's a former New South Wales Police Commissioner, and David Owens, a former Deputy Police Commissioner, and he was also the State Emergency Operations Controller. They did put us through some high pressure real life training exercises, and it really tested our ability to make quick decisions, communicate clearly, and be able to lead effectively under stress. And in some of those training sessions, there was some, clear moments, aha moments where we're like, wow, this could be on the front of a page of a newspaper. And did we actually think of this? And do we have plans for this? So that training exercise was really, really important that our critical incident team found really beneficial. To support all that, with Ken as well, we developed some really strong emergency management master plans, a business continuity plan, and some communication plans with some just draft scripted responses. So under pressure in those moments, we had something to actually already pull off the shelf, but mold based on what incident it was. So we did that. Some of our high risk areas. So if we knew we were on bushfire prone land, let's have a look at those sub plans and really connect in with our local emergency services in on those plans and the community, and see if this is what would happen in a response. So that was a really another big core area that we've done. Another key focus, obviously, we've got our evacuation training, but we're moving into more connecting with residents. We want to actually involve residents in our care homes a little bit more in on some of those drills. So that's something exciting coming up. And again, we really want to strongly connect with the local community of our services into being that main person in a critical event that we can actually pull on some resources for our business continuity planning. So ours mostly is just about having that strong leadership foundation, so all our staff and residents know that, we've got a good plan in place and a clear process if something was to happen, and we're not just running around trying to plug holes. There's a framework behind it.
Yeah, and look, this is such an important area for the sector, because it's not just about getting ourselves or our colleagues out and ready for these scenarios. We're caring, we've got lives that we're caring for at hand in our residents and our participants. So I would really, if it is something that is typically sort of not really a focus area within industry, if I can be completely honest, but I think that's something that we could all collectively get better at doing around that planning. So it can be something as putting a committee together is probably the starting point. Let's get a conversation going around some of the risks that are there. So almost risk profiling that, and then basically trying to chip away at, all right, well, you've got fires, there's different types of environmental disaster that could happen, and go from there. So like anything we do in the risk management world is starting with your risk assessment. Look at these scenarios, and assess and basically work on a plan to get better there. Thanks so much for that. I'm glad that your microphone came back and started working, because it was something that, again, because it is commonly overlooked, it's such an important one that we tend to lose a bit of focus on. So I really appreciate you sharing your insights on your journey there, Tammy. All right, we are almost wrapped up for today's first forum. I'm now going to move on to Anna Lee. Anna is an associate from a firm called Mills Oakley. They're a national-based organisation. Anna is based in Sydney. I actually came across the Mills Oakley team in dealing with, or supporting a client in dealing with a legal matter, and I was just absolutely really, really impressed with how smooth they made it for the client and the stakeholders, including myself as part of that. Not to mention, the good outcome that we ended up with there. So when I thought about a legal provider, I was first to give Laura Snowden a call, and we're fortunate to be able to have Anna joining us today. So thank you so much, Anna. I wanted us just to really start off with a couple of things. So, have you got any general updates for us in the legal world that may be relevant to our forum today?
I think in terms of legal updates for, I guess, the aged care and disability sector, we don't see a lot of prosecutions in this sector, but I guess penalties have gone up. That's probably the most general update I can provide. Even though there aren't a lot of prosecutions, there are a lot of safety ramifications. I think this might speak to your next couple of points, Chi. Mindful, I think all the conversations today have been focus on safety for employees. I might focus on providing some insight into what we've seen can and has gone wrong for some of our clients. So for example, one of our clients had an employee in the aged care sector didn't comply with the safety checks, and that resulted in the death of a resident in the facility. And I guess although the first focus when it comes to safety is for our employees, but we tend to forget that there are other areas for employers to think about as well. So in this case, the employer was very concerned about the coronial inquest and also managing the family members relating to the resident. We also saw that the employer in this case, they were worried about their accreditation and the ability to receive funding from the government as well. So we do see prosecutions in non-typical industries. It can happen, not to say that it doesn't happen. I think the other area that we want to kind of focus on for this session, I know we are very limited on time, Chi, is I guess legal professional privilege. So usually when a serious incident happens, like the case that I was just talking about, first point of call, emergency services, your fire brigade, your police, your ambulance, followed by potentially safe work or work safe, depending on which state or territory you're in. But what people often forget is it's always best to, call your legal advisor immediately just to understand, okay, what kind of processes do we need to do or to comply with an investigation? What kind of processes should we expect? Just to obtain just appropriate legal guidance for the investigation, because we do get clients when they do call too late, and by the time they call, all this information that they've gathered, your photos, your investigation reports, your witness statements, it's all been provided. It's all out in the open. I guess this protection that we're talking about, legal professional privilege, it protects clients against, I guess, compulsory disclosure of that confidential information that they've got between the clients and the lawyers for the purposes of obtaining legal advice. We do have several matters where we conduct workplace investigations. And this means the information that we prepare does not need to be provided to the employee. There's that protection there, or it doesn't have to be provided to the regulator or the workers' compensation insurer. But it's important to know that it doesn't have to be seen as restrictive. It's there just in case, like for instance, if you want to provide it, you can provide like a summary. Or if you think that there's important information out there for your workers' comp insurer or for the regulator to understand in terms of context, you can waive that privilege, that's okay. But I guess from our perspective, what we see is it's always good for clients to just have that protection there, just in case they want to retain that information, get advice about what that information means for them if they do release it. Could that be, later on used against them to their detriment? So that's, I guess, in a 5-minute spiel, some of the protections, I guess, clients should maybe have a think about. I know safety is really big for employees as well, but these are some of the things that I think that come out within like safety investigations or safety incidents that employers tend to, I guess, lose focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. Again, perspectives is what we're wanting to get out of today, and you've certainly provided that to look at it from a different lens. So I think safety is all about prevention, but it's also about being prepared, almost like our previous topic around emergency preparedness. I think it's equally important to ensure that you've got a process in place where you do maybe role play what happens if we have a serious accident, to make it obviously something consistent across your organization. So like you said, instant notification, you should have a process. It could be notifying emergency services, getting the right treatment for the people, preserving the site, but also ensuring you've got a legal provider that you can trust for some obviously appropriate information. So yeah, for those that out there that don't have a legal provider, it's something that you probably want to do to ensure that you've got a relationship, but also the right guidance that you can access at any time. Thank you so much, Anna, and I'm really apologise on how short that we've allowed for your last slide.
No, that's all right. Thanks so much for having us on, and thanks for thinking of us.
No, thank you so much. So look, for everyone else, we are going to wrap up now, just mindful of time. Super happy that you're able to join us today. This is our first forum that we've held for this industry. The intention is that we would like to have more ongoing meets or forums to share and gain some further insights from one another. Again, sharing safety information, it shouldn't be a secret. It should be something that's open, that we can all learn from each other towards getting better. And that's what it's really about. So based on that, from here, what we're going to do is all the participants, you've already registered for today. The chat option for this group will remain active unless you choose to opt out. You can do that if you don't want to be part of the forum moving forward. From here, we will work together on organising a potential follow-up catch-up, and we can talk about what sort of other things you would like to hear from some other potential guests. So yeah, that concludes things for today. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm hopeful that we can continue to collaborate and get better together and grow from here. Thank you.
Thanks very much.